2006 to order. Parish President is going to lead us in prayer. Everyone follow with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, we bow before Thee tonight and give Thee thanks for the blessings of America, state of Louisiana, and Ascension Parish. We thank Thee for the opportunity to serve in our community, and we pray that our service will be acceptable to Thee first and to the people. I ask Thy blessing upon this council meeting tonight as we deliberate the issues of our parish. Bless this governing authority. Bless the executive branch, that we will begin working closer together for the good of our people. We thank You for the event that was held previously that brought us together in a community of love and fellowship and good food, renovation of the parish seat courthouse. We ask Thee to bless this building now to fulfill its usefulness and function for many years to come. We pray for those who defend our freedoms and our liberties, be it at home or abroad. We pray for those in our parish who have special health needs or financial needs or otherwise, that Thou will bless them according to their faith and according to their needs. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Suzanne, let the records reflect that Councilman Hillensbeck and Councilman Dempsey Lambert is absent. Mr. Hillensbeck and Mr. Dempsey Lambert. Mr. Dempsey Lambert called me, told me that he was going to his son's ball game. He may be a little bit late. So, all right. Number 3, Chair's additions. That I do have two additions that I'd like for a recommendation. One came from bond attorney to put the canvass of returns and declaration of the results of the special lighting district held in Road Lighting District number 7 on.
So moved.
You got a motion by Mr. McConnell, second by Mr. Todd Lamb to add this to the agenda. Is there any discussion? Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes. And we would put that under the utilities report. How about that one? As item 8. All right, I have another one. Utilities Committee Chairman informed me that there's an initiative that has to be taken up. Mr. Byrigger?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're running out of time to close out on the Dara sanitary sewer system project. It'll be before the next day closing, and we need to move on. I do have some information. Last council meeting, we had some concerning questions. We really didn't know anything about the change order, so I have that information for us, and we can take it up. If it's okay with you.
So moved. So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Todd Lambert, second by Mr. Shake Snyder. Is there any discussion? Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes. That's going to be under Utilities Committee as item B. Is there any other 2/3 need to be considered?
Yes, I have one.
Mr. Mikio.
I'm going to consider it an emergency because this is my last council meeting. And I was supposed to call you. I apologize and ask you to put it on the agenda. But I have an item regarding parish seats that I'd like to place on the agenda and just give a brief discussion about parish seats, if that's okay with the council.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Todd Lambert, second by Mr. Shake Snyder. Is there any discussion? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes. We're going to put that under general business as 28. Any more? All right. Number 4, public hearing. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak on an agenda item, please sign in with the secretary. Number 5, presentation, we do have a proclamation. Ms. Suzanne.
This is a proclamation to proclaim Make a Difference Day in Ascension Parish. Whereas serious social problems concern our nation and threaten its future, and whereas connecting with others and working together through volunteer services can bridge the difference that separate people and help solve serious social problems, and whereas we, the American people, have a tradition of philanthropy and volunteerism, and whereas millions of self-sacrificing individuals touched and enhanced the lives of millions on the 16th annual Day of Doing Good by giving where there was a need, rebuilding what had been torn down, teaching where there was a desire to learn, and inspiring those who had lost hope. And whereas USA Weekend Magazine and its affiliate newspapers and the Points of Life Foundation and its affiliate volunteer centers, including Volunteer Ascension, have joined to promote an annual National Day of Doing Good that celebrates and strengthens the spirit of volunteer service. And whereas volunteer service is an investment in the future we all must share. Now there be it proclaimed, I, Ronnie Hughes, President of Ascension Parish, by virtue of the authority vested in me, do hereunto proclaim Saturday, October 28th, 2006, as Make a Difference Day. I think Mr. Chairman. Miss Audrey Boudreau, the Executive Director, is here. If y'all want to present this to her.
I was looking for you in the audience.
Yes, she is.
Come on up and present it. A couple of y'all get over there and get a picture with Miss Audrey.
Well, right.
Yes, I just wanted to let everyone know that the annual Make a Difference Day that's established by the Points of Light Foundation is always the fourth Saturday in October, so it's October 28th this year. But we changed our guidelines a couple of years ago so that people could do their projects throughout the year as their club, organization, school, or whatever were doing these projects, and they can still register them with Volunteer Ascension. We have a registration form. Choose the project that they would like, whether that be cleaning a roadside, collecting clothes, food, magazines and books or whatever for the needy, anything that they would like, cleaning yards for the elderly, or any making minor home repairs. They can register any projects that they decide with Volunteer Ascension, and it will be advertised, or the press will go out on it with all of our Make a Difference Day activities, and they will then be a part of the National Make a Difference Day, which is the National Day of Giving to Others. So I just want to let everyone know that they can register their projects other than October 28th. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Audrey. That's all we have there, Ms. Suzanne. At this time, I'd like to recognize our newly elected Ascension Parish District 1, Mr. Oliver Joseph. Mr. Oliver, stand up. At next Thursday's finance meeting, we will, Mr. Oliver will be getting sworn in, and at that time, we'll give Mr. Mikio a recognition certificate. So everyone, please try to be there. Moving on to Parish President's report, 6A. Mr. President, before I turn it over to you, I have a couple of people in the audience that signed a speaker card to speak on this. 6A. First one will be Ms. Italia Gotro.
My name is Italia Gotro, and I am on the Mental Health Board. But tonight, I would like to talk to you about how Ascension Parish was built with volunteers. Our fire departments were built with volunteers and are still manned by volunteers. Our recreation parks, a lot of them were built by volunteers, and our coaches and people are still volunteers out there for our boys and girls. The Jambalaya Festival was started with volunteers. The Boucherie was started with volunteers. Your Share Fair, your Youth Summit, your African American Museum, the Prairieville Fair years ago was started, the Sunshine Festival here in Donaldsonville, and the Juneteenth. So when we talk about volunteers being on boards and committees and other things, we ought to stop and think about how Ascension Parish was really built, and it was built with volunteers. Thank you.
Next one will be Ms. Baptiste.
My name is Zenobia Baptiste, and on behalf of the Ascension Parish Mental Health and Addictive Disorder Advisory Board and those volunteers that Ms. Italia told you about, we would like to take this time to thank you, the board, for your confidence, your trust, and your continued support as we endeavor to seek services to meet the needs of our community. Again, we would like to say thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, members of the governing authority and citizens of our parish. Many of us just left the parish seat courthouse where the renovation project is being completed pretty much. We still have a small punch list, but we've been given a certificate of occupancy, and it's an example of when you get the right contractor, the right architect, and the right community support, both from the governing authority and the community volunteers, chambers, and others that working together, what can be done and accomplished with a project that has really made a significant difference in our parish city as well as part of our parish. As you know, the parish owns Louisiana Square now. It was sold to the parish many years ago. Of course, the courthouse has always been owned, but the land actually was owned by the city of Donaldsonville until a few years ago when it was sold to the parish. Miss Urso reminded me of this, and she said it was $31,000, so we probably got a pretty good deal. And so I want to thank everybody who was involved with that, and it was good to have many members of the council there tonight, and the two chambers in the parish really helped put that together along with the public information officer. It was a nice event. We cut the ribbon. And so if you haven't been over there, I invite all of you to go. It's going to be a facility that has the flexibility to do many things besides just hold court. And it's been designed that way. And it's a beautiful renovation of a very historical building. And we will now put in the budget for the council for next year to spend some money to redo floors and other things throughout the building, so it needs to be done every few years. And they tell me it's probably been 20 years since those floors have been redone throughout the bottom part of the building. So, and that needs to be done every 5 or 6 years probably with the type of floors they are. So now, boards and commissions, I just wanted to review a couple things so make sure we all get on the same page here and remind us of our roles. And so I met with Mr. Babin this week on a number of topics. So I just want to first of all go in the section of the charter where it talks about the governing authority, creating boards and commissions and things. and hopefully this will help bring some closure and some sanity to what we're trying to accomplish. Under the governing authority powers, Section 412, powers in general, E, you create parish departments, offices, or agencies in addition to those created by this charter by an ordinance adopted by a 2/3 majority vote of the governing authority. Advisory boards and commissions may be created by an ordinance approved by a majority vote of the entire governing authority. Members of advisory board or commission shall be appointed and or removed by the parish governing authority, but shall report to the parish president. And then under the duties of the parish president, that kind of complements and goes hand in hand with that, so we can have the accountability that I think is intended under the governing authority powers. It says in Section 3, which is the powers of the executive branch, specifically 303, powers and duties of the president. Under I, the president shall monitor all special boards, commissions, agencies, districts, or any device having governmental functions and report to the governing authority any fiscal and operational matters as deemed necessary. And so from time to time, we will try to do that. And as we evaluate and work with the various volunteers who serve on these different boards, we've recently sent a letter to the chairman of all of our boards asking for their annual reports that we have not received this year so that we can report to you various activities of these different boards and what they're doing in behalf of our parish. And I guess as far as Gunton would say, that's all I got to say about that. Now, in the B, we have development around industrial sites, and our public information officer, Ms. Betty Robert. You know we've got a lot of concerns with the encroachment. Our chemical plant managers do. We've got issues with residential growth getting close to industrial sites, and so what our information and technology office has done, and GIS, they've put together a map for each of you showing the populations that are currently, and I say currently, it's really the 2000 census, which we know is fairly accurate, so obviously it's changed by at least 25% as far as overall population. But this map will show you, as you're considering ordinances that we may change zoning or so forth, obviously the health and safety of our citizens is something that is important to all of us, and I know we're all concerned about that. So what this does is show you populations living within 1 mile, 2.5 miles, and it's color coded, and 5 miles of the existing chemical plants. Now, we're working with the State Chemical Association, Louisiana Chemical Association, and the National Association to see if they have some best practices or standards that they would recommend for the overall safety of everyone concerned. And so we share this with you so you have this information as you're considering decisions that could impact the number of people living within a certain distance of our industrial sites. We think this should be very beneficial to you as you consider things. And so each plant is identified on that map, and then the distance from each individual plant in different zones and the populations that are currently now. Keep in mind, this was based on a 76,000 population in the year 2000, and I've been thinking we're at 100. I'm thinking a good bit over 100 now, because more and more people are moving here from Chalmette and other areas and building houses. So, anybody have any questions on that map? If you do, I ask you to get with Randy and them, because they can give you more of the detail, the technology geek part of it that I probably don't understand. But I think it's been helpful to us in the planning department. And we're giving this to the Planning and Zoning Commission. We're giving it to our planning people, zoning officials, to really, as they consider a recommendation to you, that they use this as one of their tools. Now, what that standard needs to be, our intention is, once we see what the chemical and associations have to say, then we'll present that to you, at least give you something to think about and possibly go by. Now, obviously, they want to have as much protection as they can from class action lawsuits if something ever does happen. So you got to balance that with the demand for property, people wanting to live in our parish. And lastly, under professional contracts, about 2001, 2002, there was a resolution passed by the prior governing authority limiting the executive branch authority to sign professional contracts to $10,000 or less. And that's starting to become an issue, some of the departments are saying. And so we want you to start thinking about, as we work on next year's budget and we go through the budget process, the premise that if we put a project in the budget, for example, let's just use the jail, and in the budget we got $900,000 budgeted for the jail. There's several professional contracts that could be involved in that process. Sometimes time becomes an essence, as we found out with Grace and Airbear. Speaking with legal and talking to the staff, we think it would be reasonable to ask you to increase that maybe to a $50,000 limit. And if any time is over that, and we would always report to the governing authority on what happened. But $10,000 in today's world, with today's cost, it's not very much money. And so we ask that you start considering that, Mr. Chairman, and whatever committee. We're happy to sit down and talk with you about it. But once something is put in the budget and is designated for this project, well, that's what it's going to be spent on. We can't change that budget without coming to you for a budget amendment. And so we think there's something there that we can work out that would be better and make the process a little quicker, a little more effective, a little more efficient. And at the same time, you retaining your authority to control some of that. We think that's reasonable. Now, the other thing, we've had I guess the 3 years I've been in office, and all of us almost 3 years now, I've met with Kazare and Associates on their contract several times. We met 2 or 3 times the last 3 weeks, I guess, talking, trying to find a win-win, trying to find something that would be satisfactory to all of us, as well as to the consulting firm themselves. And so under this agenda item tonight, I've asked Mr. Kazare, who's representing Kazare and Associates, to talk to you. He has something to present to you on what he has been doing. I think we all realize the political nature of this to a certain extent. And so we want to try to get through the politics and get to what the parish needs that this firm can bring to the table to benefit our parish. And once Mr. Kazare finishes, I will give you 4 or 5 bullet points real quickly that he and I have talked about, and I think 4 out of 5 we've agreed on. The 5th one he has not accepted yet, and we are open to negotiations on that. So if, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to call Mr. Kazare to the mic to do his thing.
Mr. Kazare.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, council members, president, administrative staff, and everyone assembled. First and foremost, this presentation and agenda that I've set forth this evening is not political. It's of a business nature, and I want to make sure that that's absolutely understood. It is business. Before I actually go through the projects that were assigned and some unassigned, and give you a brief synopsis of them, I would like to reserve the right of rebuttal once I relinquish this microphone, if in fact there's anything that is questionable or that needs further discussion. I'm asking permission for that from you all. Enclosed in your folders and 14 particular different projects that some were, the vast majority were directives and or assignments, and you have a cover letter there stipulating such. The first, and within all of the projects, there were written reports that were forwarded attention to individuals and fax copies of the verification of those faxes are contained. So therefore, let's start with project number 1, or the first one, which is entailed housing. And I was requested by the former Planning and Development Director, Mr. Tom Fansett, to research this subject matter and bring to the table something of substance that should be of interest to Ascension Parish government and the policymakers that you all are. The research was done. With that cover sheet, you'll see a folder from the Louisiana Housing Financing Agency, which brings a lot of programs to the citizens of the state of Louisiana. Mortgage programs per se, teachers assistance for teachers that are first-time home buyers or interested in getting any assistance for building a home, down payment assistance, rural housing development programs which assist families, restoration grants, home rehabilitation programs, rental assistance programs, and rental development, home rental development program, and weatherization assistance, and energy assistance. All that would probably impact or affect all of the citizens in Ascension Parish that may be interested in getting some assistance for their housing and or rental needs. There are several programs within the LHFA that covers major categories, which are 6 in particular: single-family homeowners, rental housing or multifamily, home investment partnership programs, again, energy assistance, project-based contract administration, and housing trust fund. At the bottom of the letter addressed on October 17th, the closing sentence said that I am awaiting your response. So after thoroughly researching the subject matter and also bringing 2 parish employees to the LHFA, in particular Mr. Tom Fansett and Mr. Roy Katz, to sit down at the table to talk about possibilities that could happen in Ascension Parish, I followed up with the letter to confirm or verify what this project is all about. At your leisure, and I know you probably don't have a lot of that, I would ask that you all peruse this. Probably your constituents are in need of these services, and they're readily available there, even to the extent of naming banks in various parishes that have these monies sitting there waiting to be used. And if you look at Ascension Parish, we have quite a few banks there that could be checked on by the citizens that may be of interest. The second project is that of the Oak Grove Community Center. I was given an assignment by Mr. Roy Katz to look into the LWCF, which is the Land and Water Conservation Fund, which is one of the departments of the branches of the Department of the Interior from Washington, D.C. on the federal level. They fund a lot of recreation and parks programs and facilities throughout the state. I can certainly tell you, when I was your recreation director, this was the soul and the heartbeat of me facilitating the parks that you see today on a large-scale basis, and using local matching funds from the local budget that's appropriated, and matched that with the LWCF funds and got the projects delivered. In question is the Oak Grove, or was the Oak Grove Community Center, about the possible relocation of that particular site. So I went there and physically inspected the site, and there's not one, but there are 2 LWCF grants involved at that particular site. One for the community center, one for the playground, recreation area. Now, I reported that back to Mr. Katz again in October of last year. The next project that you have before you is the South Central Planning and Development Commission Transportation System. There has been talk, a lot of interest, and this assignment was given to me by Mr. Fansett, to look at the transportation system for Ascension Parish. Now, the river parishes the River Parish Transit Authority was created before Ascension Parish became a part of the River Parish's caucus. So we are now a member, as you all have postured the parish. I spoke with the gentleman there, and his name is denoted in that communication, Mr. Belanger, B-E-L-A-N-G-E-R, and he agreed to meet with us for further discussion. Again, I got this information to Mr. Fansett by way of the letter that you see in that particular folder, waiting for response on that. But again, the South Central Planning and Development Commission is willing to discuss with Ascension Parish the possibility of its joining that River Transit Authority as a member. The next folder you have before you is the LWCF prerequisites. I investigated and looked further into the possibility of moving the Oak Grove Community Center, but there are some prerequisites that we must address, and they're denoted in a letter to me that's attached to the letter dated October 26 back to Mr. Roy Katz, and asking them to please contact me for further information and or assistance if necessary. So what we need to do of a legal and technical nature is prescribed in those rules and regulations that you have contained in those folders in order to move a LWCF plaque and or facility. So I would suggest that that assignment be followed up with if, in fact, you all are still interested in that. The next folder you have before you is that of the CATS, the Capital Area Transportation System. And unfortunately, in yesterday's Morning Advocate, we see where the Executive Director, Mr. Dwight Brashear, has resigned from that position and moving back to California because his mother in San Diego is ill and he needs to get back on that end. But a true professional he is, and I commend him for his knowledge on that subject matter. I contacted Mr. Brashear, and he was interested in sitting or convening a meeting with the parish in order to talk about a route from Baton Rouge. We're part of the greater Baton Rouge metropolitan area anyway. He was interested in bringing services from Baton Rouge to Ascension Parish and back. The other River Parish Transit thing, we were looking at possibly a east-west transport, because we have a lot of folks at the River Parish Community College, a lot of students that still having a problem with transportation, and it would avail a transportation system from the West Bank to the East Bank. So those are two separate transit systems that we have had some discussion with, and we're waiting further directions from whomever may give me those. The next folder that you have before you is that of a water service system for RV facility. Parish Councilman Shakespeare contacted me last year and asked me to look into the possibility of trying to get some federal assistance on this project, because it's right here in his district at the Assumption Parish line, and he wanted to be of some assistance to get that online. Well, I personally spoke with and received communication from Congressman, U.S. Representative and our Congressman Charlie Boy Melanson, and he told me that he and his staff will keep a watchful eye on any funding that he could possibly pluck for us, and he would get back to us at the appropriate time. So I reported that in form of a letter to Councilman Shakespeare. The next folder you have before you is again with the Louisiana Housing Finance Authority. The meeting with Mr. Fansett and Mr. Katz and I, with then Executive Director Helena Cunningham and Mrs. Deborah Washington, was very, very fruitful. As a matter of fact, we also made sure that Mayor Sullivan from the West Bank was a part of that as far as getting information. Again, my letter to Mr. Fansett in November of last year asked him to please get back in touch with me for further instructions. The next folder before you is that of the East Bank, West Bank Transit System, and that's with another meeting with Mr. Brashear and Dr. Joe Ben Welch of the River Parish Community College, because they have a sincere interest in making sure that this comes to fruition. The folder after that one is the ethics training for the boards and commissions. I I was given a directive by Mr. Fansett in January of this year to once again put that particular workshop or training on as we do annually, and with all our boards and commission members. So the first letter you see there in January is me telling Mr. Fansett that I've contacted the necessary personnel with the State Board of Ethics, and they needed him to give them a date, for which he did, and those workshops took place. The folder behind that one is a report on the workshops, January 30th. It dealt with, and we had 2 nights that we met, and there were 25 participants from the boards and commissions that actually came in, signed up, and went through the workshop with us. The subject matters of nepotism, prohibited transactions, gifts, prohibited income, participation, post-employment disclosure, whistleblower, conflicts of interest, and other prohibitions were thoroughly discussed and clearly understood by everyone that was in attendance there. I also gave note in my communication back to Mr. Fansett in January to please contact Mrs. June Diaz for the attendees' signatures, for which we asked everyone that participated to sign up, and they did, for further verification of their attendance. The next folder behind that one is entitled Small Business Workshops. I contacted Mr. Greg Spann of the Small Business and Development Workshop or Center in Baton Rouge. That's affiliated with Southern University. There's one with Nicholls State University, and there's one with SUNO, Southern University of New Orleans, which has not come back online. But this gentleman was more than interested in coming and assisting us with small business workshops and their further developments. We understand clearly that the backbone and those have been there through the long run of the small businesses here in the state of Louisiana. Certainly bringing them more basic and fundamental steps in operating their businesses and staying abreast of the current trends of their industry are necessary tools for their success in the future. So these workshops could assist small businesses and strengthen the tax economy of Ascension Parish. So therefore, that should be of interest to you all, the governance of the parish of Ascension. The next folder behind that one is that of Parks, the Parish of Ascension Recreation Commission. I had the opportunity to engage with the meeting that I set up with Mr. Cleveland Hardman of the Louisiana Office of State Parks and Outdoor Recreation, and our recreation director and her assistant, Ms. Sherry Kinchin and Beth, to talk about possible funding for the possible LWCF fundings in properly posturing Ascension Parish Recreation to receive those, as well as other monies that may be available through his particular department by way of the federal government and or private sector. And Mr. Hartman again has committed that he will certainly keep Ascension Parish in mind, and that we will receive information on applications in the entire process as soon as those federal dollars will come down to his particular department. The next folder, second to last folder, is that of, and that's the 13th project, dated July 17th, in reference to the Louisiana Transportation Center. Now, as you know, within the scope of the nature of the work that I've been assigned, dealing with that subject matter, the interest there, or the purview there, is to give assistance to the Parish of Ascension on the federal and or private sector or investor aspects of that proposed facility. I had an opportunity 3 weeks ago to spend 4 days in Calgary, Canada, at an international cargo carriers convention that comes about every 2 years. It was the largest one of its kind in history. There were 8,000 delegates from countries throughout the world. And we were there pushing not only that particular project, but I had an opportunity to speak to people from Dubai, Venezuela, Italy, Rome, various areas around the globe, in reference to Ascension Parish, and placed emphasis on service-oriented businesses that could possibly spawn up around that proposed facility if it does come into fruition. They know of Ascension Parish. They know of the proposed project. As you know, or for your information, the $1.4 million that was appropriated last year for the studies with the EIS, Environmental Impact Study, as well as another business feasibility plan, is now in motion as we speak. We are looking at a projected date of December of this year to have those studies that are in progress now completed. No later than February of next year, presented to the Governor Blanco and the Louisiana Airport Authority Board of Directors. So with that in mind, the federal aspect of that project, as well as private investors, private sector investor companies, we are still banging the drum very loudly about Ascension Parish and all of its attractions and what may be suitable to those folks or those companies that would like to come and set up shop within Ascension Parish. The final folder, the 14th project, is that of Federally Qualified Health Center. Because of the population disparity here in Ascension Parish, a growing number of our citizens now are having difficulty, major difficulty, in providing medical services for themselves and their family members. Well, Ascension Parish has all of the statistics there, the necessary ingredients to qualify it to receive federally qualified health services. Now, it comes in various forms. We're not asking the Parish of Ascension to put any money on the table, but we're just asking, and I wish that you really would read this at your leisure, because I think it would be or should be of interest to you all, because we have so many folks now that just, I mean, medium to low medium, low income, and those that are living in poverty that could immediately qualify for these services. It's a 10-step process of federal regulations that we have to go through, but I think it's worth the effort to try to bring this to the table for Ascension Parish. However, you all will have that charge or that decision to further look into that subject matter, give me directives to do so. A compilation of 14 projects is before you. Verification that the work was done and mailed accordingly. I am at your pleasure, at your leisure, to answer any questions you might have or entertain any suggestions and or comments at this time.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Crozier? All right, Mr. President.
Thank you, Roy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we've had some miscommunications probably on some of this. Several of you have told me you hadn't seen any of these reports that were due quarterly in writing, so I'm not sure what has happened. I'm trying to go back and research this. And you remember you revised this contract of May of 2004. At that time, it was a 1996 contract that had been done initially, where a lot of what Crozier and Associates was doing back then was a continuation of his days in recreation. So we revised it. You revised it in 2004, made several changes to what we expected from this consultant group in the area of Louisiana Transportation Authority, housing, tourism, economic development, and a couple others. You know, obviously, since that time, we've created our own Ascension Economic Development Corporation, and even though the scope of some of what was in this contract is a little different, we feel like a lot of that's now being handled by this group. Since that time, our tourism has really come back more under the auspices of the parish and not trying to be a Southeast Regional Convention Center and Visitors Bureau. So we don't see that need as great. So the assets that Mr. Crozier and I have talked about over the last 2 or 3 weeks, I guess we've met 3 times personally, and we've talked over the phone a couple of times. And the administration would recommend to the council that we revise this contract again in the following ways that would be acceptable to the administration and things that we think this group could bring to the table to benefit the parish and to try to prevent 2 years' worth of reports. We'll do them more often. And so I propose the following to you and revisions. Number one, we continue to use this company in the area of Louisiana Transportation Authority, particularly where, in Mr. Crozier's personal part, where it does not fall under the powers and duties as he has as chairman of the House Transportation Committee. So like what he did a couple of weeks ago in Canada is the type of things that would help us move this. I met with Ms. Glenda Johnson last week, who is the, I guess, executive director of Louisiana Transportation Authority, and one of the purposes of the meeting was to talk about what this firm, Kazar & Associates, did up there at that conference in Calgary, Alberta, and she was very complimentary of what they were doing in representing our parish. In addition, we would feel good about, and Roy and I have discussed, him seeking especially federal funding. If there's any conflicts at the state level, well, we have to avoid that because of his position there, but on the federal level, funding for the Lamar-Dixon facility. As you remember, Senator Landrieu made a commitment a year ago, last month, to acquire $10 million of federal appropriations for that facility, that we would make it available in the future for future emergencies and so forth. So Roy didn't promise me that he can bring $10 million to the table, but I expect that of his firm. I have a faith that they can accomplish that for this facility. So that's something I think would really benefit us. Now, as you know, our bicentennial celebration is next year, and we have a group of volunteers that's growing regularly, working on that. We also have Mr. Linwood Holdrich, who is working on the planning a lot of the celebrations and programs, and that's going to cost some money. We anticipate getting most of this from the private sector. And so I propose to the firm that we really involve them in this process, to work with our Bicentennial Commission group, work with Mr. Holdrich, and to help bring both public and private money. We will be taking a grant to the state Monday, I think it is, State Office of Tourism, which is part of the Lieutenant Governor's Office, requesting $200,000 of tourism dollars from the State Tourism Office for our bicentennial celebration. Now, those are the three specific revisions that we discussed as far as scopes and responsibilities within this contract. And now another part of the contract, as it was revised in May of '04, says that Kazar & Associates will report in writing and verbally to the Ascension Parish Council quarterly. And several of you have told me that you hadn't received anything, and it's part of this communication problem. And then it talks about more often to the Ascension Parish Council Chairman and the Planning and Development Department. And I'm not sure why we did it that way 2 years ago, but I propose that we change that this contract will report directly to the parish president, where Mr. Kazar or someone else from his firm, we would meet probably monthly just to talk about what's going on. And then maybe quarterly he would make a report to the council on the activities. And then the last thing, as far as I can determine, meeting with my staff, and when I took office we had about 299 contracts. And we've tried to go through all of them and evaluate them, and from what we can determine, this is the only one that automatically renews unless either party takes action 60 days prior, and I think the date is the 6th of December. And so and it gets to be points of contention, it seems like, every year. And so I don't see the reason to have a contract that is different from the rest. And this is something Roy and I have not agreed on yet, but that this contract would expire at the end of next year and be renegotiated and evaluated just like all others are. They'd be consistent with all the other contracts in the parish. And so those are the things that I, as parish president, feel good about. Now, in the housing area, I probably hadn't spent as much time talking to Roy about that. Obviously, affordable housing is becoming an issue in our parish, so I'm certainly open, and I think he could help us in that regard. Obviously, we've got to improve the communications between these different agencies. Now, I don't think any of us really want with the old thought process of projects, and that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about, as you notice around the country, one of the initiatives of the National Association of Counties is to try to keep our teachers, our firefighters, our law enforcement officers living in their community. And many times these professional people aren't paid a lot of money, and so it's becoming increasingly more difficult for them to buy that first-time home. And if I can ever convince 8 of you to vote for the impact fee on transportation, that's going to impact this too. And so this in affordable housing is one of the issues that a couple of us had and a concern that I had on this issue. So this is an area I think that can help us to try to complement this initiative. So administration proposes that we renew this contract through next year. We make those revisions to it. And so any questions, Mr. Chairman? Now, and we have until really I guess December the 6th to negotiate on that other issue, but we have to, according to the contract terms, we have to notify Kazare and Associates of any changes like today or tomorrow within 60-day window of December the 6th.
Are there any questions for the parish president?
I would like to just add one thing since I won't be here past today, that riverfront development be added to that contract if it is amended, changed, just to add that to Kazare and Associates as one of the things that he
you have any problem with that, Roy? Is there a conflict there in the state legislature? What you do?
No, as long as it is the federal and our private sector, I don't see where a conflict is. However, I'd be more than happy to research that and then get back with you with an answer on it. I don't perceive any problems, but I would like to be on the right side to make sure. Let's dot the I's and cross the T's on that request. And if it's permissible, certainly I will be more than happy to take any assignment from this council that this council bring forward.
Thank you.
Ms. Fontenot.
I just have something under, since he's brought up professional contracts. I've been contacted by a local pharmacy about the contract that we have with the Diamond Pharmaceutical Company. And there's some things that he has a problem with. One of them is that drugs are being returned back to this particular company, and the state statutes say that that's illegal. And he's asked me to review the contract. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to send this to a committee, whichever committee you think it should go to.
Ms. Cheryl, Ms. Fontenot, I'm going to ask that you get with me after the meeting, and I'll look at it, and I will bring it to the appropriate committee.
Thank you.
At a later date. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else has any questions for Mr. Parish President or Mr. Kazare? Mr. Kazare, do you have anything you...
Yes, if you would allow me to rebut. Again, I'll take the assignments as directed by you all. I don't have a problem with that, but let me bring to the attention of the council that the amended portions of the amended sections of the original contract dealt with 5 categories with an additional 6. In particular, there was Section 1, Section 2, Section 3, Section 4, Section 5, Section 7, with an addition of a Section 8. As I appreciate it, we are discussing the scope of the assignments as to what Kazare and Associates could possibly do, for which I've agreed to do that. However, I don't know if we can discuss the terms, because the term was never amended. So I don't know technically, under your administrative procedure rules and regulations, that we could address that portion of the contract under a parish president's report. I think that's something that you all must look at and engage in, and then come back with a definitive answer. But I don't think, from my research, that that particular aspect of the contract could be discussed because of the nature as to how it is being presented under the parish president's report.
Mr. Chairman.
That's all you have, Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Mr. President.
Mr. Babin, do you have a legal opinion on that? I mean, we're just giving a report.
Your parish president report has professional contracts, so we talked about Mr. Kazare's contract under that. So if you're going to talk about that, I think any aspect of the contracts can be discussed with this. I would prefer to see on the agenda that we list the specific contracts.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone has anything? All right, we've got a recommendation from the parish president. What's the wishes of the council?
I would say, Mr. Chairman, that
Mr. Valentine.
technically, yeah, you need a 2/3 to put it on the agenda, and I really don't think we need to be discussing Mr. Quazaire's contract on the basis of the way it was brought to us. I really don't. I would like to add something to its scope, though, since we do have, and I am the chairman of the Personnel Committee, that we add to it, which the parish president can do, the fact that they have the ethics workshops more than annually. We need one right now because we have several new people that have come on board, and he was in charge of that and did an excellent job. In fact, Ms. Baptiste talked about that the other night, and I think we need to have that more on a quarterly type basis. Even if it's just 3 or 4 people, it needs to be done to reassure those volunteers that come to our boards and commissions that they're, what their rights are, what their leeways they have on especially dealing with ethics.
If I could comment, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. President.
Yeah, and we discussed that, George. That was part, but we think we can do that administratively now without consulting, because the ethics commission, I forget who's the head attorney, Roy? I forget her name.
It's Grace Sexton.
Yes.
Is the head attorney.
They would be glad to come down any time for that.
Yeah, great.
And so and not only that, and you bring up a good point, now the state has mandated that people serving on planning and zone commissions have to get like educational credits every year. They have to get continual ed. And we've got volunteers here serving, but now the state has mandated, because of, I guess, what's happening in planning and zoning commissions around the state, to help them understand better. And if you watch the planning and zoning commission recently, you can understand that. So that's another area that we're administratively trying to deal with. And it's hard to make volunteers come to these sessions, but if the council will make that part of your conditions of serving on a board, I think we need to do that now. George, I think it's a great point. So if we could I don't know if we need a resolution or we need an ordinance, but we need to require, as part of service, as much as you can with volunteers, that they attend annual ethics training, them individually, and would have to do it more often as boards change. But specifically for the Planning and Zoning Commission, they need to understand, I think it's 4 hours they have to have a year now in continual education. So that's got to be done as well. So,
Mr. Chairman, we do regularly point that out, especially to the planning and zoning people. That is a requirement, and you'd be very surprised on how many people that come and ask to volunteer actually ask, is there a class I need to go to? So they do ask that in the interviews a lot. So I think it's well needed. So
we agree. Thanks.
Mr. Byron.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My recommendation on this contract would be possibly let Mr. Quazaire's firm and parish president negotiate, get something in writing that everybody can see, and possibly bring it to the finance committee where we generally handle contracts, and then go ahead and approve it through the parish council that way. So we have, and we're not just winging a contract here tonight. Everybody will have a full understanding of what we actually do. That would be my recommendation.
I guess on a question we would have, Mr. Chairman, from legal again, if the contract says one party, either party has to give 60 days notice. So if we just give notice that we intend to revise it, that we meet that standard and we can negotiate in that 60-day window.
The contract is always subject to renegotiation between the parties if the two parties consent.
Anytime.
Anytime. However, the contract says what it says. To terminate the contract, this gentleman or you have to give notice within 60 days of the contract's expiration. If you intend to cancel the contract, you need to make a motion to send that notice today. If you do not wish to cancel the contract, I think Blair has already stated publicly, we can negotiate with you. The parties can always renegotiate the contract, but you can't unilaterally renegotiate the contract.
Right.
You impose things that come in.
Okay.
As long as both parties agree,
So we're okay.
I agree on the assignments. I still don't agree on the term, and I think that needs to be severed and discussed as Parish Councilman Barringer just said. I think that aspect needs further
And I
negotiation.
agree we negotiate on that in the next 60 days.
Yes, sir.
I feel pretty strongly about it.
I do too.
All right.
It's obvious.
Mr. McCollum, you got something?
Well, I'm just questioning. So if we don't take an action by tomorrow, this contract that's in force is automatically going to renew for the entire year of 2007.
That is correct. But it's also allowed administration and parish government to renegotiate. And that's what we're talking about doing right now.
Do we need something from Mr. Cruzare tonight?
You take no action. The action that you took in approving the contract lives on. So the contract is what it is. It says what it says. That's the law of the land today. If you want to renegotiate, you may do that. Excuse me, Don. It's not the best side. We negotiate at any time between parties. So if negotiations completely break down, there's no agreement between the administration and the firm, the contract continues on as it is.
Well, then I guess what I'm trying to say is I agree with the parish president that I don't like a contract that automatically renews year after year, 60 days in advance. I just don't like that one aspect. But the parish president has sat here and he said he does have a use for Cruzare and Associates. He does have work for them. He has specific projects in mind. So therefore, if this project automatically renews by our inaction, then that's not necessarily a bad thing because the parish president does have assignments for Mr. Cruzare. But I would really hope that we would look at this contract, and when we're in the process of this renegotiating sometime during the year 2007, I'd hope we'd get it done as early as possible. Then we would look at all of that. Of course, at the end of 2007, this could all be a moot point. Mr. Cruzare will no longer be in his legislative office, and the contract may not even be necessary. So we may be just spinning a lot of hot air over here. So I'm going to follow the parish president's recommendation that we just take no action on this contract. The contract will automatically renew. The parish president has a defined task for Mr. Cruzare, but as I said to Mr. Cruzare when he and I met privately earlier this week, I wish you'd come around more often. And we like your company. We like having you here, Roy, and we appreciate what you've done for the parish. Thank you.
In respect to that, and you and I had that discussion, and it's not about looking at you and shaking your hand, which I don't mind doing. However, the reports were made in a professional matter, in my opinion. You have evidence in front of you. I don't have a problem with that. I was under the pretense that when a certain individual would be here, I would be standing next to them for any supplemental and or auxiliary information to bring forward. Again, it's a matter of interpretation. I don't want to beat this thing to death. I understand clearly what you're saying. I don't have a problem with that, and I'm looking forward to a fruitful 2007 with all of you all.
Thank you, Roy.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman. I'm trying to shorten them, but I knew this was going to be kind of long, as Roy showed me these various documents yesterday.
Keep trying, Mr. President.
Oh, yeah. Next time we're going to be short.
Number 7, consent agenda adopted September 7th,
So moved.
2006 minutes. Got a motion by Mr. Valentine, second by Mr. Thompson. Mr. Mikio. Is there any question? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Number 8, committee reports. Utilities Committee. Mr. Byrigger.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We put under 2/3 of agenda item A. I believe we said Lighting District 7. I'm not quite sure who's supposed to be handling that.
Mr. Babin, are you ready to present this to the council per Mr. Dugas and Mr. Lambert?
Bill LeBlanc called me this week and asked that I tell you what this is about. This does two things. It canvasses the returns and declares the result of the special election held for Road Lighting District Number 7. There's two things attached to it. One is a resolution, which has a section of canvassing, It also has a process verbal which outlines the tax. It's a 5 mil tax, the proposition, its vote, and the polling places, fors, against, and proclaims and declares open in public session that within the corporate limits of the Parish of Ascension that the tax was passed by a necessary majority of the voting population. So it does two things. It's a resolution and a process verbal attached. These were prepared by your bond counsel. They informed me they couldn't be present tonight and just asked that I briefly explain to you what's going on.
Mr. Chairman, I move the resolution.
Second. Motion by Mr. McConnell, second by Mr. Thompson. Is there any question? Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
Secondly, Mr. Chairman, we have a change order for the LCDBG grant project. Brought up on the 2/3 because of the time restraint. We have a net increase of $42,346.95.
Decrease.
Decrease. Decrease. So we're in the plus of 42,000. And we also asked for a 140-day time extension. Approximately 110 days there was some extra money and they decided to do some overlay projects in this area. 110 days for that. 30 days is also time extension for some unexpected boring on Highway 22, and that is the change order.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Valentine. Is there any question? Is there any opposition? Having that motion passed.
And the next utility meeting will be Tuesday at 6 p.m. And that's again, my report.
Thank you, Mr. Lowry. Number 9.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Thompson.
Mr. Barron, I'd like for you to put on there, Darrow want to create a consolidated utility district and follow the boundaries of the water district number 2 with the utility district. Thank you.
Number 9, Personnel Committee. Mr. Valentine.
Thank you, Chairman Savoy. Personnel Committee met Tuesday night. We did also have several interviews that we did. We'll have those candidates for your approval, or our recommendations for your approvals at the next meeting in Gonzales. The Personnel Committee met dealing with the mental health ordinance. Mr. Roy Katz was there and discussed and handed out a sheet of some items that he was interested in, and the administration was interested in changing. He also requested a committee, a subcommittee of 2 people from the council, 2 people from the mental health board, and 2 people from the administration to essentially go over those requests. After a lengthy discussion, of course, Mr. Katz had to leave. He had a personal, I think he's told me, a death in the family that he had to leave, so we did not get a lot of discussion from Mr. Katz. But after committee perused it, and we heard from the mental health board, the motion was made not to have any changes, and the recommendation would be not to change anything with the mental health ordinance at this time. I will tell the parish president that I will discuss that with him, as which I said the other night that he and I would discuss that in case there's another avenue for some changes to be made. He and I will discuss that, and we'll see what we can do about that. That's all. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Valentine. Number 10, Recreation Committee. Mr. Mikio.
Yes, the Recreation Committee met the last Tuesday of last month, and we'll meet again the Tuesday of this coming month, or this month, excuse me. And I just wanted to say this committee oversees activities that directly affect the youth of Ascension Parish. I'm very impressed with the director, also with her and the West Ascension Recreation Services Commission working together, especially with the new proposed alternative sports facilities and everything that's going to be going on in Ascension Parish with reference to recreation. And I look forward to working with you guys in the future. And thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Mikio. Number 11, Transportation Committee. Ms. Fontenot.
Thank you. The Transportation Committee did not meet, and Mr. Rue says we have no items to bring forward tonight. I will remind everybody that we meet the second Tuesday of the month, 6:30, or immediately after the Utilities Committee. And as always, I ask that you drive with care. Thank you.
Number 12, Strategic Planning Committee, Mr. Shakespeare.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had a special meeting of strategic planning last Monday concerning the drainage ordinance. After 1 hour, we realized that we needed more time, and so therefore we voted to meet again this Monday at the council chambers at the courthouse annex on the East Bank this Monday at 6 p.m., at which time we will continue to discuss on the drainage ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Shakespeare. Number 13, Finance Committee, Mr. McConnell.
Mr. Chairman, the Finance Committee meets on the second Tuesday of every month, so we'll be meeting a week from tonight. Thursday, sorry. Meeting a week from tonight at the Gonzales Courthouse at 6 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. McConnell. Number 14, we've got some zoning reviews next. Zoning review ID 1572.06, portion of Track 5 for Swamp Road Partners, LLC, located on the south side of Swamp Road, approximately 700 feet west of Airline Highway, to amend the Ascension Parish zoning map from medium intensity residential to mixed use. And this is for review only. I do have a gentleman in the audience wishing to speak on this particular item, Mr. Carl Leader.
How y'all doing? I'm Carl Leader. I'm representing Swamp Road Partners. I know this isn't real common, but we're just asking before this thing's going to be heard in 2 weeks at the council level that we had a shot just to explain to y'all what happened at the planning and zoning. We introduced the issue. Public hearing was opened. We had nobody opposing it at all. Public hearing was closed. At that point in time, we thought it would be a motion made to recommend approval and sent on to council. Well, it didn't work that way. They made a motion to deny based on the 51% rule. Now, the 51% rule, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's usually being done administratively and not at the public hearing level. And we just ask that y'all take serious thought about not just overlooking it. And I have some maps that I'd like to hand out to y'all and my business cards with them. And y'all can call them.
Say the last one and give it to the secretary, please, and she will make copies and forward the rest of us.
And if there's anything we can answer, any questions in the next 2 weeks coming up, we'd be happy to do so. And we appreciate the time.
Thank you, sir. Number 15, zoning review ID 1574.06, lot MB1 of the Mary Button property for Harvey Weber, located on the south side of Stringer Bridge Road, approximately 1,150 feet west of Beco Road, to amend the Ascension Parish zoning map from rural to crossroads commercial. That's for review only. Number 16, zoning review ID 1576.06, lot 6 of the Robert Wilson tract for Robert Wilson Jr., located on the northwest corner of Louisiana Highway 30 and Robert Wilson Road, to amend the Ascension Parish zoning map from business park to mixed use. That's for review only. Number 17, definition of bed and breakfast. That's for review only. General business, proclamation, National Incident Management System. Mr. Paul Keller. No, sir.
You were
He
talking.
said it was for review only. If you got some questions about it, he'll take them.
Pay attention.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council, Mr. President. What this is, it's a proclamation that's relatively simple. All of you have a copy of it in front of you, where the parish will accept the national standards for emergency management as its official plan for emergency management. That way, this is being worked on state by state, but probably Louisiana is kind of ahead in the crowd because of the fact that they want similar terminology, like if you have firemen coming in to help from another state or police coming in from help from another state, everybody would be using the same training methods, the same everything, and particularly for different industries that you would have, then instead of having a variety of trainings, it would be one type of training. One of the early portions of this is that you have to certify your people that do emergency response, whether they're from the general group on up to the most sophisticated portions in management. And I want to tell you is that in the last 4.5 weeks, Ascension Parish has certified over 400 people. In fact, in Region 3, which we are in, the only one that has more than us is East Baton Rouge Parish, and the reason, if you took it per capita, we really have way more than them. And it's 4 levels of training. They call it the 100 level, the 200 level, the 700, and 800. And we've had excellent response from all the police departments, from all the firemen, from parish government, and I don't think that we'll have a single department in the parish government that doesn't have people that understand the logic of how you're controlling the emergency and what will be each of their roles during the emergency. So I would ask you all to please pass this proclamation so that the President can issue it and we can get this out of the way. If you have any questions, I'll be very happy to answer.
We got a motion by Mr. Todd Lambert. Second by Mr. Dempsey Lambert. Is there any question? Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
Just a quick comment, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Keller. Mr. President.
I'm happy to report I'm one of those 400. I passed all 4 exams, so you guys don't have to kick me out as parish president. So National Incident Management System, Incident Command System, and 100 and 200 has to deal with first responders working within that organizational structure of NIMS. This is a national program. This executive order was actually signed by President Bush in 2003, just hasn't been implemented. It came out of the 9/11 Commission study. And all of you, I encourage you to get familiar with it. The National Incident Management System really came from the California Firefighters Association, forest fighters, the way they organized themselves and set up their command structures fighting forest fires in the state of California. And now the National Office of Homeland Security is using this as the model to be used throughout the country so that both local, state, and federal governments on the same wavelength, same command structure, and doing things consistently the same. So thank you, Dr. Keller, for what you've done here, and let Jocelyn know I did pass my exams. I got my email, so I got that behind me. I finished. I took all day Saturday. Thank you.
Number 19, certificate of substantial completion for the Ascension Parish Government Complex Lighting Remediation Project. Mr. Kent Israel.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Byregger, second by Mr. Todd Lambert. Is there any discussion? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Number 20, the scheduling of Halloween trick-or-treat or trick-or-treat hours. Mr. McConnell, why don't you take that up?
What you can do, recommend we cancel Halloween?
No,
In spite of what some people think, this is not a mask I'm wearing. That's what I really look like. Mr. Chairman, it looks like most of the communities in our old region have scheduled trick-or-treating for Tuesday, October 31st. They've scheduled the hours for trick-or-treating from 6 until 8 p.m., and most communities set an age limit of 12. And I'll offer that as a motion.
You got a motion by Mr. McConnell, second by Mr. Thompson. Any questions? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Number 28, Mr. Mikio.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'm going to just talk briefly a little bit about parish seats, and it comes at a perfect time since we had an opportunity to look at the Ascension Parish Courthouse and all the renovations that occurred and how beautiful it was. A little synopsis. Parish seats were originally established to be the seats of justice, a central, convenient location for the parish courthouse and the administration of justice at the local level. Local government functions and offices naturally evolved around the centrally sited seats of justice. A 1979 Attorney General opinion, which I'll discuss, found that parish police jury offices and functions should be located at the parish seat. Louisiana Revised Statute Title 33, Municipalities and Parishes, states that the police jury of each parish shall provide a good and sufficient courthouse with rooms for the jurors and a good and sufficient jail at such place as they may deem most convenient for the parish at large, provided that when the seat of justice is established by law, they shall not have the power to move it. The Attorney General, and I'll give a little synopsis of it, and I'd ask the Attorney Ricky Babin to look it up for me, please. Attorney General Opinion Number 7921, dated February 28, 1979, states, the principal offices, personnel, and records under the control and authority of the police jury must be located at the parish seat, including those of the parish treasurer. I would charge the council and the administration to take a good look at placing all principal offices back in Donaldsonville. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 21, introduction of an ordinance to consider amending the Ascension Parish zoning map from medium-intensity residential to crossroads commercial for Lot 3C located on the east side of Louisiana Highway 73, approximately 200 feet south of Louisiana Ascension Parish Road for Todd Husser, zoning review ID 1546.06. Do I hear a motion to introduce?
Motion to introduce, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Todd Lambert, second by Mr. Byrigger. Is there any discussion? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Number 22, introduction of an ordinance to consider amending the Ascension Parish zoning map from medium-intensity residential to mixed use for property located on the east side of La Rocha Park Road, approximately 800 feet south of Easley Malonson Road, zoning review ID 1548.06. Motion by Mr. Todd Lambert, second by Mr. Byrigger. Any discussion? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Number 23, introduction of an ordinance to consider amending the Ascension Parish zoning map from conservation to medium-intensity residential for property located on the west side of Louisiana Highway 73, approximately 500 feet north of River Oaks Road, zoning review ID 1549.06. Motion by Mr. Byrigger, second by Mr. Todd Lambert. Any discussion? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Number 24, extension of the public hearing from September 21st, 2006, regular council meeting to consider Ascension Parish drainage ordinance.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. McConnell.
This was discussed at the last meeting, and we extended the public hearing, hoping that the Strategic Planning Committee could examine it further and listen to the public's input and the additional input that we wanted to hear. And you heard Chairman Kent Shakespeare, Strategic Planning, report a little bit earlier that there was just not sufficient time to give it the proper hearing and debate. So I would like to offer a motion that we extend the public hearing again, and with just the caveat, if there is somebody here who does want to speak on this, that we allow them that opportunity.
Now we've got a motion by Mr. McConnell, second by Mr. Byrigger to extend the public hearing considering the drainage ordinance. If there's anyone in the audience wishing to speak, you will have the opportunity. I will ask you to consider waiting until we bring it back up, but you do have the opportunity to speak. Is there any question on the motion? Is there any opposition to the motion? Having none, motion passes. Number 25, we will pass on 25, the ordinance. 26, public hearing to consider title pursuant to a corporate endeavor agreement of certain movable properties owned by Ascension Parish and Ascension Parish Fire District Number 1 to French Settlement Volunteer Fire Department. Mr. Batten.
Gentlemen and ladies, it reads, transfer title pursuant to a cooperative endeavor agreement of certain movable property owned by the Parish of Ascension, Ascension Parish Fire District Number 1 to the French Settlement Volunteer Fire Department. Whereas the Parish of Ascension and Ascension Parish Fire District Number 1 owns the 1978 FMC 1,000 gallon per minute pumper E40 bearing VIN F28JVAG5522. Fire rescue truck is old, deteriorated, surplus, and has been out of service for several years and is no longer needed for fire protection by either the Parish of Ascension or Fire Protection District Number 1. Be it ordained that Ascension Parish Council is the governing authority in and for the Parish of Ascension, with permission, consent, and request of Ascension Parish Fire District Number 1, does hereby authorize the conveyance and transfer of all rights, title, and interest in the 1978 FMC 1,000 gallon per minute pumper E40 to the Friends Settlement Volunteer Fire Department as is, without warranty of any kind, as more fully contained in a cooperative endeavor agreement attached hereto and made a part hereof as Exhibit A. You're further authorizing that Ronnie Hughes, Parish President, is authorized to execute any and all documents necessary to complete the transfer on behalf of the Parish Council.
Motion to open public hearing, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Motion by Mr. Byregger, second by Mr. Todd Lambert to open public hearing. Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this public hearing?
Motion to close, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion to close public hearing by Mr. Byregger, second by Mr. Dempsey Lambert. Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes. 27, the ordinance.
Move the ordinance, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Motion by Mr. Byregger, second by Mr. Todd Lambert. Is there any discussion? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Number 28, public hearing to consider the revocation of a 15-foot drainage servitude on Ultima Plaza, Lot 1 for Geneva Enterprise.
Whereas by the official plat map showing revocation of a 15-foot drainage servitude bordering tract B4A and Lot 1 of Ultima Plaza, a commercial subdivision located in Section 15, Township 8 South, Range 2 East, Southeast Land District, east of the Mississippi River, Ascension Parish, Louisiana, for Giovanni Enterprises, LLC, by Alan Fairburn and Associates, LLC, dated July 7, 2006, recorded as plat book entry in the office of the clerk and recorder for the Parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana. Whereas the Ascension Parish President and Council, in the opinion of aforementioned servitude, is not needed for public purposes. Be it ordained by the Ascension Parish President Council, acting in accordance with the Ascension Parish Charter, that the dedication of the 15-foot drainage servitude bordering tract B4A and Lot 1 of Ultima Plaza, a commercial subdivision, Section 15, Township 8 South, Range 2 East, Southeastern Land District, east of the Mississippi River, Ascension Parish, Louisiana, is hereby revoked, set aside, and the title of said property reverting to the present owner of the land lying contiguous thereto. The effective date of this ordinance is prescribed by law.
Motion to open public hearing, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Byregger, second by Mr. Thompson to open public hearing. Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this public hearing? Motion by Mr. Byregger, second by Ms. Fontenot to close the public hearing. Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Number 29, the ordinance.
Move the ordinance, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Byregger, second by Ms. Fontenot. Is there any discussion? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Number 30.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Mikio, second by Mr. Byregger. Any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.